Welcome. Hi. Episode 3. Another delicious offering, another incredible human. So each month, I have the absolute and somewhat selfish pleasure of delicately dipping my toes into the sweetness of someone else's practice and wisdom. It's this opportunity and invitation to recognize that life is layered and nuanced, and that there's so much on offer in terms of finding the things that help to support us, even inspire us in living fully with joy in our hearts and a spring in our steps. And so, really, the intention here is to give yourself the space and the permission to realize that practice isn't a one size fits all, and that's totally okay. Our only role is to simply remain open and curious and playful, and to wholeheartedly embrace the things that do fit and that find us the encouragement to offer everything that we are out into the world. So today, I have the absolute honor of chatting with the dreamiest of beans. We first met in India, teaching alongside each other on a training. And if I were gifted but one word to describe the essence of her soul, it would be sunshine. and it was quite funny when I sat to think about how do I want to introduce EJ today. Without thought, there was this quote that just kept coming up in my mind. And so I kept coming back to this small sentence within one of Roald Dahl's well-known books, The Twits. And it says, if you think lovely thoughts, they'll shine out of your face like sunbeams. And EJ is the sunbeam. She is that someone who carries and emits such a magnitude of caring and warmth for those around her. It's like this endless reserve of compassion and kindness. And more than that, this incredible ability to listen and deeply listen. And then in doing so, truly respond to the needs of the moment just as they are. So, without further ado, EJ, thank you so much for being here, for offering to do this, for sharing your wisdom. I'm grateful and I'm so excited.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so honored. I wish I could crawl through the screen and give you
Yeah.
oh, bless. So happy.
I'm the most happy. I've missed you, and I love every time that we have an opportunity to catch up and chat. And one thing that I really love to do, so we're going to dive straight in, is to just get nosy and curious about someone else's practice and to gain insight into what they're currently leaning into as that means of support. And what I really love about this more and more is that I'm coming to recognize that we're all seeking that same thing, that essence of wholeness, of recognizing that we're actually totally okay. But the means in which we move towards that or get there are so varied and so different. And it's such a delicious offering of life. And so I would love to know what your practice currently looks like. What do you lean into to get that support, and why potentially those specific things? What is it that keeps you coming back to them?
Oh, I love it. Okay, I have some things. One thing I really, really love, especially in the morning, is yin. And I think that's because I'm a Vata sign. If I'm not dreaming at night, I'm daydreaming during the day and thinking of all these ways I can do this. My head's always up here. And it's the one thing that time after time after time brings me back to myself. The moment, but also it feels it's so nurturing and so tender and so gentle. And I feel like it's a very unique and special time that I do offer that to myself. It's always go, 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 go. Oh, we don't have time for this. But then this practice, I can be like, body, I'm sorry. Thank you. Let's hold these spaces and do this. Bless, 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 bless. So I used to do meditation guided, like just through myself. And I'd be like, all right, I got this. And I suck at it. I can guide other people, but guiding myself, I'm like, I would get lost. So I've started doing these practices or guided meditations by Deepak Chopra. And he recently did one on tapping into the divine feminine. Oh my God. So he has the centering thought for the day, and then he guides you through a mantra for the day. But sometimes if I really like one, I'm like, oh, let's repeat this over and over and over. But bless, he's great. I've never really been attracted to his teachings until recently, and now I drink him up all day.
Mm, I love that. I love how something doesn't resonate at one point and then suddenly it's like your entire world.
Yeah, I can't live without this. And before you're like, oh, whatever, like he's a fad or something. And I'm like, no, he's amazing.
Yeah, it's almost like I think I listened to it's something that keep again it's just playing out in my mind recently, and it was in a Ram Dass podcast, and it was like nothing happens a minute too soon or a minute too late. And I feel the same way, not just about our experiences, but the teachings that we arrive to, the podcasts we listen to. Whenever
Yeah,
it lands, it's always like it was meant to be now.
exactly, exactly.
Mm.
It's like inner you knew that you would need it at that moment and was like, all right, we're gonna need you on Thursday. She's on Thursday. Come in, come in, come in. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it comes, you're like, oh, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Aha.
Beautiful. I also really resonate with what you say about meditation. Sometimes I feel like teaching meditation, I drop into more of a meditative state than actually doing it myself
I so
because
feel you.
the mind's just it's so distracted. Uh,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I feel like there's more kind of argument. It's so much easier to hold space and want something for someone else, but then to want it for yourself, you're like, la 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 la. Oh, there's things to do. I'm gonna go here, and then you're like, oh God, like you said, I suck at this. Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? Um,
Girl.
me too, me too. Um, and so one of the things I really love about Yin is that there is nowhere to go. Like because it's the container, it's like the mind is allowed to shift and to move and to do its wriggling, but it's almost like that's part of the celebration of the practice, and so there's such a
Exactly.
relief in that.
It's like, just stay with it. And you watch it go like, oh my God, how long are we to stay here? Oh, our leg might fall off. We might die. I like this. And then it kind of sets back for a second. Oh, it's like, what are those machines? And you hit it and the ping pong, machines
With the game,
thing. And the ball go ding, 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 and then chill.
pinball.
Yes.
I was like, you've got it, it's ping pong, pinball. I totally know what you mean. I was thinking about that the other day and I was like, this is my mind, like after coffee or when I'm too busy, it's like and then it drops into the hole.
Yeah. And then it's chill. You just have to let it run rampant for a while.
Exactly. Um, Beautiful. So, just coming to your offering, and this one of the things I love so much about this is that I get to explore so many different avenues of practice and be held, not just in the practice, but in that embrace of someone who really believes in the practice that they're offering and who really takes themselves into that space. And I feel like it infuses the experience with this magic where I don't even have to try so hard because that person wants so much for you to feel what they feel that you just kind of like as a byproduct feel it. um, and so EJ has really kindly offered not just a yin practice but this sound healing at the end of the yin, and it's just delicious beyond words. What I love, so many things, but what I love about it first is that the yin is infused with that wisdom of Chinese medicine, and you give such a relatable and accessible way of understanding why we're practicing it. What is it going to bring to us? And I feel like the why is always so important. If I don't know why, how can I turn up with intention?
Mhm.
And the other thing that I noticed is it was almost like through the process of yin, so where you have to get still, where you have to feel all the feels, let the mind spin out. um, it was almost like it opened the doorway to have an even richer experience of sound, because by that point I just surrendered, and so the sound was just like this vibration that washed me with aliveness.
Mhm.
And it was insane because the minute you started playing, it was like my body like switched on. um, and so I suppose if really just to give some insight, more insight into the yin and why this particular practice, but then also a little bit about sound healing, the use of sound and vibration, and what brought you to this practice and to offering it so powerfully and so effortlessly. Because honestly, there are bowls and there are people that play, and then there is you, and I think that it's just something entirely different that takes you somewhere else.
Oh, that means so much to me. But I also, I want to touch on what you said at the beginning, how if you show up with that intention, it does get infused through your teachings and people really resonate and they feel it. Um, there's this, oh, there's this man, and I'm gonna butcher his last name, and I already apologize to him. Jonathan Goldman or Goodman, but I think it's Goldman. He's in charge of the Sound Healing Institute in the US, but he's done all these studies on why sound vibration works and why specifically sound healing is so effective. And he made this equation. He's like, it's twofold. So you have this one part, and it's the instrument, it's the frequency the instrument gives off, and it can have an effect on you a certain way. But you have to have the second component, or it means nothing. And you have to have an intention for the instruments to heal. And that's how you have healing. So it's these instruments, yeah, they're so cool, they're so magical, but then you have this intention behind it and it ups the ante. So whatever you bring personally to the instruments is the outcome. And I feel like I've learned from doing it wrong before, of showing up and being scattered and not really being present and being like, why didn't that really work? But then when you show up and you set the altar and you have the intention and you're like, I want you to tap into the divine and like touch this part of you that's innately joy and playful and free and expansive. Let's do this. And I feel like every time, if you come with that intention, people are like, oh my gosh, I saw this vision here of my childhood, or there are all these shadows. And now I feel uh, like me, it's so, so cool just to be like a catalyst for, I'm just going to do these things and have this intention, and something profound and beautiful really occurs and really happens.
Mm.
It's so awesome and so humbling.
Yes, that's it's such a humble, it's such a beautiful word. Um, I really felt that with the practice, and one of the things I think that gave it so much power, or what I was feeling, was that it was almost like you let something move through you. It's not trying so hard, but rather just being present. And so there was an effortlessness that was carried through the way everything was played. And yet when a dong or a sound or an extended, like, nothing was too soon too late. It was all just like, of course that's there now, oh yeah. And I just felt more and more held. um it's just such an insane process. And if for anyone who hasn't experienced sound, I highly recommend it. If anything, I was at the end, I was like, I just want you to play sound to me for an hour. I want my entire morning to just start with that, and I'll come back. And the thing that really blew my mind is, I'm someone that likes to over effort, and I feel like that's probably something many people could resonate with, because we live in such a fast paced world. And there's often this, ingrained idea that to gain more, feel more, access more, I have to do more, I have to work really, really hard. And, I did the practice again this morning because I'm just going to keep coming back to it because I love it so much. And I felt tired. I've been feeling tired the past few days. And, it's so amazing to see that rest can actually infuse you with vibrancy. And it was just, it's an hour of deliciousness and of softening, especially as yin practices go. There's still like this invitation at the beginning to be held by the earth, to be held by the ground, and to let go a little more. Um, but I just felt so full of life when I came back, and all that I had to do was let go of trying.
It's wild. It's the opposite of what you would think it would be, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love about yin too is I feel like with a lot of our practices, you like are engaging the muscle, you do breath, but it can be alive and enlivening. It can be grounding too. But there's a lot of like effort to hold your body a certain way or get here. And yin is very, it's not about the muscle. It's about like deepening into these connective tissues and into the ligaments. And if you look at any athlete who gets injured, it's always in like their connective tissue in the knee or their Achilles or something that isn't a muscle, but it's holding these two big muscles together. And it really starts to nurture these small parts of our body that we kind of take for granted, and it hydrates the whole body. And it's so incredible to me. And I think it's also one of the most difficult practices at the same time. In the beginning, to hold still, you're like, "But how long? Okay, sure."
And like 3 minutes have never felt that long. Even a minute. It's like time stretches out infinitely. Like the
Yeah,
whole concept of time is just misconstrued into something else.
so true, so true.
Especially like, if you're enjoying the feeling of a shape, it's just like time comes around too quickly. No, not
Ex
yet. I want to stay here. And if it's one that stuff starts to build and get more intense, you're just like, surely that's over. Like they've just lost track of time. Why am I still here?
This will be forever, I just know it.
Yeah.
But there is this I feel like it's like a roller coaster with your mind. It freaks out, freaks out, freaks out, and then sensations like, oh my god," and then all of a sudden it starts to come over and subside, and it's like, "Okay, I'm chill here. Let's calm down, like, I'll let go."
Exactly. And I feel like it can teach us so much. One thing that I really enjoyed, um, you're a poet, so I love everything that you say. I kind of like hang on to your words.
Thank
But there was
you.
no, every time you write, anytime you speak, I'm just like, ah, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Um,
Oh, magic.
but there was an experience, and I want to remember what shape we're in, but I was definitely feeling some more sensation. So it might have been one of the ones where it's getting hippie and I'm more lifted, like I'd like forward fold or with the lateral. And you mentioned about what the mind might be doing, and I thought that was so fascinating to invite someone not just like look at the mind. It was like perhaps it's doing this, so perhaps it's pushing the experience away and trying to escape. Maybe you're trying to shift and change what you're having, etc., and such the like. And it was so wonderful to be given that opportunity to see our tendencies, and then to know that we have a choice and we don't have to be that tendency, and we can just step back. And then suddenly it's almost like all the layers of the experience that were already there, we're less identified to the story and more open just to the feeling of it, which is, I really believe what yin is about. It's suddenly like, doesn't matter what the shape looks like, what are you feeling?
Exactly, exactly. What's happening right now in this moment without judging what's happening.
Yeah, which
Oh,
is so hard.
mhm, so hard. I feel like we even judge our minds for just being a mind. You're like, "Oh gosh, I suck." Like, bring the mind back. You're like, "No, be like nice to it." "Oh, you silly little goose. Let's like come back to the moment." But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it builds our relationship to ourselves. We start talking kinder to ourselves. Um, which is huge and so, so important. But then witnessing that too, you're like, man, I'm kind of mean to my mind or mean about my habits. And oh, they're just habits and they served you at one point and that's all right. We can shift it now that we know what it is. No
Mm.
hate necessary. Just, oh, it served you, little girl. Now let's go this way.
I think you touched on something so beautiful there, and it's something. Anytime someone brings it up again, I can forget, but when it is brought up, it's like it's that recognition, and it's almost like a wave of relief. Like, oh, it's there because it served me. It did serve a
Yeah.
purpose. I can thank it, and then I can say that I'm ready for something new. Um, but it's tough.
I feel you, sister. Like, I know it's there. I know it should be nice. We'll get there.
Slowly, slowly, more yin, more yin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and then what was it about spleen meridian? So the yin practice, much like yoga, can speak to nadis, or these energy channels that move through the body. Yin leans into the meridians, and again, it's such a lovely addition or layer to the experience to understand why we're moving, or why we're seeking to release or cultivate more energy within those areas. One of my teachers would always call that sensation or the stuckness the issues in our tissues. And so I just wondered, like, what was it about spleen meridian that you felt like this is it? Because it brought such a lovely theme actually that ran throughout the entirety of the practice that was so enriching.
Mhm. Oh gosh. Usually I pick things because I need it. But then, like, collectively, we all kind of, I feel like, need the same things at the same time. Not always. That can be a little arrogant to say, but I feel like when you need something and speak to it, someone else needs it as well. And what I love about yin and how it works with the Chinese meridians is there's all these overlaps with also Eastern philosophy and Ayurvedic medicine. There's so much overlap. If you look at, like, the metal element, and then what's like a pitta excessive, like, what am I trying to say? If you're pitta excessive, there's this metal element in Chinese medicine. And I feel like back in the day, they had all this time to sit and kind of feel and really tap into their intuitive nature and tap into this kind of divine space, maybe more easily. But we all say different words, but it all means the same thing. And I think sometimes we get too caught up on the lingo. Like, I was talking to someone the other day about the Akashic records, and I was like, "Oh, that's like Purusha and, like, you're all-knowing divine." Like, "No, it's this place you go to and it's a library." And I was like, "No, I think it's 2 different words that mean the same thing." And, oh, we could all just come together, and I think, like you were saying before, there's so many different roads and so many different avenues that you can get down to find or tap into the divine in your own unique way. And we get a little caught up in lingo, and I feel like I went off on a tangent. I'm so sorry. Yay, Chinese medicine was over here.
I love the tangent. It's perfect. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, we get caught up on the vocabulary and the words, but we're all trying to hit the same point. And I feel like if I can support you and you can support me in these different avenues in different ways, I will get there more fully. And I don't need to judge you if you find God through music, or you find meditation through walking outside. I need to find it through sitting or writing. There's so many different beautiful facets and ways to tap into your divine self. And instead of being like, this way's right, everyone else is wrong, it's like, oh, well, she needs to do that and he needs to do that, and I'm going to do this. But if you need to do what I do, come to my class.
It's so true. It's so true. I'm fully on board with that. And I think, I've had to go through my own experience, because I think we can confine ourselves. When we
Mhm.
find something that works, we're like, this has to be it. And then we forget to explore other things. And like me being quite pitta, when I find something, it's like really intense, like I'm in, I'm fully in, blinkers are on, and then I forget. And one of the things I love is that actually I think the body and that feeling aspect you mentioned is so important, and it's always giving you those nudges, so that when
Mhm.
the mind's being intense about what's right and wrong, it kind of like softly steers you towards like reopening the blinkers. And if you're not listening, that softness will probably be a bit more of a bump,
Exactly. Fall off your life.
where you're like, oh crap, here I am again. um, yeah, but I'm feeling more and more feeling that such a necessary it's such a necessary piece to the puzzle. I think we can overanalyze, get too caught up on theory and context, and forget to like embody an experience and to figure it out and to feel it for ourselves.
Yeah.
um, and I suppose that has been one of the most wonderful and confronting things about something like yin practice, which is just
Mhm.
like be with it.
And you can't move for a while.
Oh my god, the movement thing. And then the
Like
mind moves instead.
yeah. It's like everything you run from, like, "I'm not angry at my partner. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry." Then you go to your yin pose and it's like, "What's all this anger that's here?"
Like a
You,
ball.
like, have to confront it. Yeah, yeah. But then once you do, that's the second you have the softening. You see it, you're like, "Oh, I feel this anger." And the second you notice it and bring awareness to it, it slowly starts to kinda dispel. You're like, "Oh, that's not too bad. Why was I even holding on to this?" Like, the more you deny something, the more power it has over you, and then the second you, like, shine a light on it, it's like, "Oh, cool. We had that moment and it's done."
Wasn't so bad.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it wasn't so scary.
I'm the worst at that. I'm always like something's uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm totally fine. Look over there. I just keep going until like it keeps like tugging me back, and then I'm just like, oh, okay, here it
Oh,
is.
look, oh, look.
And then you're like, why did I wait so long?
And then once you see it, you're like, with the it wasn't, like, demonic or anything, it's just, like, something very human and very, like, totally normal.
Yeah, it's accepting our humanity. I think sometimes that's been the biggest thing for me. It's just like, oh, I don't have to be perfect. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm allowed to make mistakes and get it wrong, and I'm going to keep doing that for the rest of
exactly.
my and maybe lifetimes more.
Oh, but there are those days when we get it all right, I like those ones.
I love them so much, and you have a small part of you that's like, I'm going to be here forever,
I love this space.
like full expansion.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. I've hit no limiting beliefs today, I'm on fire. Then the next day, you're like, "Oh, no." Contraction.
I find actually that I have, and this is such a tangent as well. Like, this is just a chat now. Um, I find I have those moments where I'm like really excited to do something, but it requires a level of vulnerability. And then
Mhm.
you do the thing and you're in the full expansion. And then, like, I think Brené Brown calls it a vulnerability hangover. Like, immediately after, you're just like, I'm so open, I want to contract. I don't know how to stay open. You're just like, ah,
Stay in my power 24/7? What?
you're crazy.
It's like the turtle that comes out and he's like, "Yay, okay."
Back into the house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No more, no more.
I love it. Okay.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'd love to just talk to you about how did you come to the sound bowls?
Oh my gosh, it was in Goa, in Uganda. I went to a sound healing. I can't remember where it was, but it was only Tibetan bowls, and I remember there were monkeys, and I didn't have a peaceful experience. I All this stuff came up, and I was laying there, I was pissed, I was angry, but then I left, and I was like, "I think I like those, like, I need to get into this a little bit more." Like, I didn't find peace, but I feel like everything I was ever ignoring or, like, putting down came to the surface. But then a little bit later, I was like, "Okay, let me get into this." And I was totally fascinated, and I went to California to study with this woman, and she had all the different instruments, and I was like, "Oh, I don't care about the crystal bowls. I don't care about the gongs. Like, give me these Tibetan bowls. They're awesome." And then when I was playing with the other ones, I was like, "Oh my gosh. Wait, I like these." These are like angelic and soothing, and the gong is totally like all your shit that you hide, it's like, "Oh, I'm bringing it up." It pulls everything to the surface. It's so cool. It's unbelievable. And they're tuned to there was this scientist who took all the frequencies of all the planets that they emit in space and then did something really smart. And I can't poetically tell you what he did, but put the frequency into these gongs. So when you play it, it resonates the frequency of that planet. So I picked Pluto because it's a planet, but not a planet. So I relate, like, oh, it's there, but not there. A little cutie, but it's tapping into our shadow self, which is a theme I love to bring into sound healings, because I think for shadow self, we like to think it's like these really ugly, I'm gonna say demonic again, I guess that's my word today, but we think it's like these evil parts of ourselves. But I think it's really just these parts of ourselves that are really beautiful and innately us, but we're too shy to bring into the light. We're too shy to embody fully. And then like what are these parts of you that you could call forth or could let vibration bring forth? Um okay, I'll get super nerdy and scientific for a second.
I'm in.
So our atoms or our cells, they vibrate a certain way, and healthy ones are like, "Blue, blue, blue," they're going. But when we have these moments of physical trauma or, um, oh my gosh, emotional trauma, we shift our either our subtle patterns or our physical patterns, and cells don't really die, but they say become dormant. But I like to say they like just fall asleep. So with these frequencies, these instruments, and with the intention behind it, they can start to one make your cells that already vibrate within you vibrate at a higher, more healing rate. But also these ones that have been asleep for a long time can just all of a sudden wake up, essentially, which is so cool because people will say, "Oh, I broke my knee here and I felt vibration in my knee and like my knee feels better." Or they'll burst out crying and say, "I just thought about this thing and now I can float." It's just, oh, it's fascinating and it's humbling and it's so simple.
Mm. And I really, it makes sense to me because the
Yeah,
minute you started playing, my whole body, it felt like the cells were switching on. There was just like an aliveness and an intelligence and an awareness that moved through me. And and I feel like there's something within that, the way the sound carries you, that I was just willing to be like, I'll watch.
yeah. There's
And
like a truth there.
yeah, it, ugh, it's like you said, it's so simple, it's so effortless. It's just like let it move through you.
Yeah.
I also love what you said about the crystal bowls being angelic, because I was having a conversation with my friend the other day, and I said something similar. I was like, "There's something about the crystal that just feels soft and sweet," and I was
Oh,
like, "There's something about Tibetan bowls that have like, I don't know, like a not." I think we can use the word heavy in a negative way, but like there's a deeper quality to them.
yeah.
I like what you said about they're gonna hit the shit and pull it, because that makes sense to me. It's almost
Yeah.
like they're more jarring in their sound, like it's like an instant, whereas
Mhm.
the crystal for me is just like this soft washing, this soft ripple.
Oh, it's so true, it's so true. And then you'll watch too, like what people need if you've done the gong and the Tibetan bowls for a while. People get a little like tense and things are kind of sifting to the surface. And then you're like, okay, here are the bowls now. And then it kind of softens you and you can kind of, I think of like smoke or like something just releasing. You're like, oh, I don't need that anymore. I'm okay. Like mom has me now. I can settle in.
Oh, I can hear again so much wisdom. Like just hearing that from you, it's so interesting because it's not just to sit and play, but you're actually observing what's happening in the room, um,
Mm,
and feeling what someone needs. And so there's such an art to actually, again, it's the presence and
mhm,
that deep listening quality that you have that must absolutely has to be why it's so powerful. Because even in, like, I haven't had the pleasure of having a live session, but I've been seeing posts and being like, if I was there, I would be booking in for a private session every single day. um, but I have joined some of your IG lives that have saved, and the same experience. And I just, my mind's been so blown. So there's a level of attention that's coming through that really carries the experience to another level for sure. So anyway, I could go on about that forever. I'm really interested. I want to dive in more, and I love the science behind it, and I love this idea that it awakens those cells that have gone to sleep,
yeah,
like almost like luring them back into full vibrancy.
yeah,
Okay,
mm,
so on to joy. I ask everyone, and I feel like you honestly hold this so effortlessly, regardless of what's going on. It's something that really struck me when I first met you, but also as I've continued to kind of intertwine and see and meet and then watch your own growth. And it's that there's always this, like I said, sunshine and this element of finding joy. And that's not to say that there isn't contrast or challenge. And your willingness to meet all of that so openly and vulnerably and still find the ways of accessing your joy. And so I would love if you could share what joy really means for you personally. How do you touch in on that? How do you live that? And if and when you start to feel that sense of separation from it, or that it's kind of fading into the distance, which life can certainly do, what are your favorite means for reclaiming it?
I love this so much. um, okay, so those moments, I think, when you feel, oh, just truly joyful, and I feel like we keep saying this, but super expansive and big, are those moments, those places, those spaces, the people where you can be 100% totally yourself. And if you can show up as yourself, no lies, no hiding, to me that's like heart bursting, bubbling over. I'm going to cry, like, yes, joy. Oh, and I feel like it's been throughout my life, I've had to learn when to show up fully as myself all the time and notice how I react to other people. Like being around you, for example, like you feed like joy right back and you're yourself right back. And the more you're yourself, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be myself even more. And there's that like receptivity that just makes it fun and playful and there's no judgment. And you're like, I'm gonna say this then. And maybe it'll work and maybe it doesn't, but it's so human, and like ungraceful, but also graceful in how completely ungraceful it is. Um, but then I notice there are some people where, or places or spaces where I feel like a little girl who's shy again, where I feel myself like pull the words back in. And I've been trying to set boundaries there. I'm like, okay, well, I can't really hang out with you. I'm still gonna be kind, but like, yeah, you don't serve me. And this person does. And I think that's huge because I feel like as women, we really grow up as people pleasers, and making other people feel comfortable is like one of our first priorities. It feels like that we're taught. And then I've had to tell myself, you can be a bitch and say no. And it's not bitchy, but it's like giving yourself permission, like, yeah, say no. You don't even feel good when you leave this thing. Um, so doing that, and then when I don't follow those boundaries, ways to tap into it are definitely dancing, writing, but writing on my typewriter, I feel like when I type on the laptop, like there are some sort of like internet gods that can get in there and see what's on it. I have no idea. It makes no sense. But on the typewriter, I'm like, okay, if this is shit, I can take the piece of paper and crumple it up and no one sees it. So there's this freedom. It feels like there. Again, it could totally be mental. I don't, maybe they are watching the computer. I don't know. I'm not that important, but just in case. But definitely, oh, getting the groove on, even singing in the shower. Sometimes if I don't have the space to myself, I'll get in the car, pick a song, roll up the windows and be like, I'm just driving literally to sing for a second and then come back. Don't look, it's okay. Oh, and I think lastly would be hiking, just getting out in nature, and it has its own little way of just like sound, just like yin, just like any yoga practice of holding you and saying, it's all right, whatever needs to come up, let it come up. Like, I got you. There's a reason we call the earth Pachamama, Mother Earth. Like, she has this essence of just having you and seeing you as you are fully, and like, that's all right. Like, I can still take you away in this river if you're happy or sad. Like, I don't care how you show up. Like, she's beautiful. And what is it? Ram Dass says, you go out in nature, the quieter you become, the more you can hear.
Yeah.
So true.
He also has one about, and it's really people love it. It's about the trees. He's like, you see a tree and it's a tree.
Yes.
And you love them and they're beautiful and all their differences. Why can't
Mhm.
we see each other like that? And I was like, oh, every tree is beautiful. I want to hug all of them.
No matter their quirks, like their quirks make them more beautiful.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet we wouldn't hold the same kindness to ourselves often.
Which boggles my mind. But then you know the people who are totally themselves, embrace their quirks, and then own who they are instead of being like, you're like, oh, no, it's just like a Tiffany does that. It's a Tiffany thing to do. It like becomes okay and more forgivable because they're 100% themselves and they're not ashamed of it.
Yeah.
Get there.
Like just owning it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, baby.
I'm fully with you. And I sense that that's also where I access joy, where I feel safe to be myself. And I because in that you recognize that I don't need to be anything. This person, this thing, this nature, this experience just accepts me exactly as I am right now, even when I don't show up as my best self.
Yeah.
Even in those moments where I might just miss the mark, and it's okay. I'm allowed to do that.
Mhm.
And I also, I love everything that you mentioned because again, it's almost this recognition and this invitation that everything is practice. Like the practices that we do with the methods and the structures and the themes within them are really just so that we get better at life. And so,
Yes. Oh, yes.
yeah, like the singing and like being like, well, I need my space. I'm going to get in my car and drive just to sing a song really, really loud,
Mhm.
which I can't do because I get really into the song and I end up either speeding or crashing the car. Honestly, I speed if I'm singing at the same time as I'm driving. I'm just like, whoa,
Because you get like super jazzed about it. You're like, yes.
look at the speed camera. I'm like, oh God, 10 miles an hour faster than I thought.
It wasn't me.
Like, yeah. But I do the same thing. I have to find a space where I feel like no one's going to hear me so I can just,
Exactly.
yeah.
Burst out. And I feel like when you're alone, also in the shower, something happens to your voice. You become phenomenal, like Broadway singer. For some reason, other people come in, you're like, oh, it's just not quite the same.
Yeah, because you hold back a little bit, I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
Warmth, like there's nice reverb. There's always, things are bouncing back off the walls. So the sound of the shower, everything just comes alive.
Exactly. Broadway career in there.
I never choose this.
Yeah, yeah. Dang it.
Oh, amazing. I think that's everything. And now I want to go and dance and do all of the things. Uh, celebrate life.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you so
thank
much. I
you.
could speak to you forever.
I know.
Before we completely,
Flying over.
I know, right? It's all right. We have plans. When the
Yeah,
world ends,
they are
retreat,
happening. They are happening.
bring it all together.
Yeah.
Um,
Reopen now.
come on.
I know, I know. Patience. Okay.
It's coming. We're coming.
Mm.
Before we wrap up completely, I would just love to open the space for you to share anything you have coming up, any of your extra offerings. I know that you have a training, I believe,
Mm.
our training that you also do. Obviously, not based in the UK, but for anyone who can find you, where they can find you, what you're offering, and just invite them into all of your deliciousness.
Happy. Well, I'm in Colorado, USA. Right now, I feel like I'm in transition and a whole bunch of things are about to be birthed. But yes, there is a sound healer teacher training. Nothing on the books coming up yet, but it's like that's happening soon. Lots of privates happening this summer, which is crazy. I feel like pre-COVID, no privates for sound healing. And post COVID, everyone's like, hey, let's do it. So if you're in Colorado, come play. They're the best. And I feel like you can get everything more catered to what you specifically need. Oh, hell. In a sound bath, you kind of get that too. But monthly sound baths happening. Oh, in Breckenridge, Colorado. That's where I am. And then I do some things on Insta. Oh my gosh. My Instagram is at Wild Earth Yoga. If you want to follow there. But yeah, hopefully more things are coming. Again, we'll see. We'll see.
Sound healing training? I want in on that.
Come play.
I totally would. I'd love for that. Okay. As soon as you know, like, let me know. I'm signing up. I'd love to learn from you. Oh my god, that'd be amazing. Right. Do you offer private sound healings online for anyone who can't be in Colorado?
Well, I don't see why not.
Ooh.
That's a microphone thing.
Yeah.
And after hours of finagling it, I know the tunes and the settings to make it just right.
Is that on Zoom?
Hmm?
Is that on Zoom?
On Zoom and on what did I use last time? Oh, I think it was Zoom.
Oh my god, amazing. Okay. I'm gonna add all of EJ's details into the blurb and onto the website and everything so you can find her for sure. And I highly recommend everything. All of the bits. All of the bits.
Yay.
Yeah, thank you so much again. Let's check and see
Oh.
everyone for watching, and I'll be back again next month with another amazing human.